What's up, my comic comrades? With the upcoming Penguin Max TV series, we really need to talk about the character's most gangster moments in comics, because Colin Farrell's version of the Penguin from Matt Reeves' Batman universe is a straight-up gangster, and honestly, the best part of the Pattinson Batman movie, to the point of even overshadowing Batman himself with only 10 or so minutes of screen time. Colin Farrell just stole the show every time he was on screen, but as longtime Batman fans know, Penguin has been portrayed very similarly in comics on numerous occasions. So before we see some of the vicious, badass gangster moments from the Penguin in the show, let's take a look at some of the moments from the comics that have inspired this live-action version of the iconic Batman villain. Okay, first up, we have the time the Penguin drove a chef to suicide. You heard me right, the Penguin is so gangster and diabolical, he drove someone to suicide. It all goes down in the Joker Asylum Penguin one-shot. About halfway through the issue, we see the Penguin on a date with his new girlfriend Violet, eating at a fancy restaurant. And as the Penguin is getting romantic with her at the table saying, "These last few weeks, Violet, I don't know what to say. You've saved me. You've really saved me." She replies, "Oswald, you're the one who saved me. Remember? God knows where I'd be right now if you hadn't come along." Penguin says, "I could say the same. I never could have imagined it would feel so grand having someone like you in my life, someone I could be myself with. Violet, I think I'm falling in." But before he could say love, Penguin hears someone laughing at him, or at least he thinks someone is laughing at him, so he turns and looks, and it's the chef. Captions in the comic then say maybe it was just a coincidence that the chef laughed while looking in the Penguin's direction. Maybe he just happened to think of something funny, some joke he'd heard the other day while glancing around the room. Maybe there was nothing malicious about it at all. But in the end, it really didn't matter. Because the Penguin picks up the knife next to his plate as Violet says, "Oswald, what are you doing?" He tells her, "I'm sorry, my dear, it's nothing. Let's enjoy our dinner." Captions then say, and so they ate their dinner and enjoyed their evening, and the Penguin never said a word about the chef who laughed. But a few days later, that building had a new owner, and the restaurant was forced to close. Its employees all fired. And the day after losing his job, the chef found out that his girlfriend had been suddenly deported to Romania and his best friend arrested for child pornography, despite his insistence that he was framed. The day after that, a new tenant moved in next door and began blasting the stereo at all hours of the day and night. The landlord stopped taking his calls. The church he attended was closed for fumigation after a bizarre infestation of killer bees. The park where he liked to sit and read was annexed and bulldozed. And then the chef, who was a recovering alcoholic, woke one morning to find that a 24-hour liquor store had opened across the street from his apartment. Less than 2 months after he crossed paths with the Penguin, a night janitor found the chef at a bus station restroom. He'd hanged himself. The day after, the Penguin scanned the obituaries, laughing at the chef's death. So let's dissect this for a moment. For starters, the Penguin didn't know for certain that the chef laughed at him. He just assumed he did. The comic even says maybe it was just a coincidence that the chef laughed while looking in the Penguin's direction. The Penguin had no concrete evidence that this man was laughing at him, yet he still took the simple thought of it so personal that he systematically ruined this man's life until he committed suicide. I mean, he bought the restaurant solely to fire the chef, then had his girlfriend deported, framed his best friend, tore down his favorite park, and so on. All on an assumption, the unconfirmed possibility that he laughed at him. That is completely unhinged and straight up mobster stuff. There's also another wild Penguin moment in this same comic issue, but before we get into that, Variant has gratefully been around for a long time now. And one of the coolest things about getting to do what we do for as long as we have is that we've had the opportunity to partner with a lot of great companies and people. One of which is today's sponsor, Fan Expo HQ, which not only organizes and puts on some of the biggest and best Comic-Cons in the country, but also creates and posts a ton of great content for fans right here on YouTube. We've promoted several of Fan Expo's Comic-Cons here on the show, but like you, we're limited by time, money, and frequent flyer miles. So we can't attend all these great events in person, which is what makes their YouTube channel an instant follow. On the Fan Expo HQ channel, you can find event recaps, cosplay videos, panel highlights, fun celebrity content, and a ton more. It's just a fantastic nerdy escape to a happy place. So take a second to check out and subscribe to Fan Expo HQ on YouTube, or just click our link in the description. A recent video they posted that was pretty fun is with Emily Swallow, the armorer from The Mandalorian, cosplaying as her own character at Fan Expo Cleveland, then taking pictures with other Star Wars fans and cosplayers, and then surprising them in the end. Another great one is the Hobbit's family feud with Elijah Wood, Sean Astin, Billy Boyd, and Dominic Monaghan. The cast from Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit films are always pretty hilarious. Again, to subscribe to Fan Expo's channel, just click our link in the description below, and maybe we'll see you at one of their cons. Now, jumping back to the Penguin, in the same issue where he wrecked the chef's life, there's another gangster moment we need to talk about. We learned that the Penguin met Violet when she was brought to a sex trafficking ring where she was caged with several other women. She asks Penguin to help her as tears roll down her face, and you can see Penguin just instantly feels for her. On the next page, we see her wake up in a bed with Penguin sitting next to her, saying good morning. He says, "It's okay, you're safe now. No one's going to harm you here." She says, "You bought me, didn't you?" He says, "No, my dear, I don't buy people. The way you were being treated was beyond savage, and I simply couldn't stand for it. Not even animals should be caged like that." She hugs him, saying, "So you rescued me. Oh, thank you." So from here, she falls in love with him because he rescued her, and he falls in love with her. However, after the chef incident, she becomes suspicious and finds newspaper articles that the Penguin keeps in scrapbooks of the people he's killed, like the chef, local schoolgirls, and so on. People he killed because they laughed at him, or at least he thought they laughed at him. He's obviously had a rough upbringing and was always picked on and laughed at as a child. And now that he's a powerful crime lord in Gotham, he gets revenge on those people. Needless to say, once she finds out that the Penguin has killed so many people and is not the nice guy she thought he was, she tells him, "I saw it. All those people. I saw what you did. You're a monster, Oswald." He says, "Violet, don't say that." She tells him, "I can't believe I didn't see it before. How could you do that? How could you hurt those people? You're sick. You're a monster." He says again, "I said don't say that." She tells him, "I'm leaving you, Oswald. If you want to stop me, you'll have to kill me. You hear me, you sick freak?" He tells her, "Yes, I hear you, but don't call me Oswald. That's not my name." Because since she pissed him off, he's the Penguin. And the Penguin is a gangster. Then on the second to last page of the issue, we see the Penguin talking to Violet, who is off screen, saying, "I'm sorry, Violet. I'm sorry things didn't work out between us. You know how it goes. It's nobody's fault, really. These things just happen. I know we'll both get over it in time." He continues to say goodbye to her as he leaves to go to dinner with several other girls. And on the last page of the issue, as he says goodbye, Violet, we see he put her back in the sex trafficking ring where he found her with her locked in the cage once again. Man, I don't even know what to say. This is just all kinds of messed up. She finds out he's this deranged gangster killer, so she's like, "Hey man, you're a monster. You kill lots of people." He clearly doesn't like that, so he puts her back into sex trafficking, the same exact place where he rescued her, sending her back to hell for calling him a monster and breaking up with him. That is hardcore. So let's roll into Earth 1, Penguin 1 from Batman Earth 1, Volume 1. This version of Penguin is possibly the evilest version of the Penguin as far as his relationship with Batman goes, because he's responsible for the death of Bruce's parents on this Earth. You see, even when Bruce was young, Oswald was a veteran criminal in Gotham, and Oswald and Bruce's dad, Thomas Wayne, were both running for mayor. The problem was Thomas wanted to make the city better, and Oswald wanted to use the status as mayor to further his criminal acts. And since Thomas was clearly the favorite, Oswald couldn't risk losing the election and the power being Gotham's mayor would give him. So he planned to have Thomas killed one night at Monarch Theater, where him and his wife and son were attending a showing. In fact, he straight up tells this to Bruce when he discovered he was Batman towards the end of the novel. When Batman attacks Oswald, the Penguin is able to knock Batman out and then rips off his mask, revealing he's Bruce Wayne. Oswald says, "Bruce Wayne?" Bruce says, "You had my parents killed. You took them from me." Penguin then replies, "It all makes sense now. Somehow you knew Jacob Weaver cut the power to the theater, but you went out the back door before my men could get to you. I worked for months to arrange that, to plan that, but then someone else killed them for me. It's what the city does." So we find out the plan Penguin set in place to take out Bruce's parents didn't work, as Bruce and his parents went out a different door. All because of Bruce's brattiness as a child, shown to us towards the beginning of the novel. So though technically they didn't die because of Oswald, they would have if Bruce didn't use the back door. So the fact that the Penguin even had a plan in place to kill them just so he could become mayor is pretty gangster if you're asking us. Moving along, we have the time Penguin ruined a man's life for accidentally calling the Penguin fat in Penguin Pain and Prejudice issue 1. It all starts towards the beginning of the issue when Penguin bumps into a man's back. The man, not realizing who just bumped into him at first, automatically turns around and says, "Why don't you watch where you're going, fat ass?" But when the man fully turns around and sees it's the Penguin, he about craps himself, saying, "I am so sorry, Mr. Cobblepot, sir. I mistook you. My stupid mouth. Would never have." Penguin says, "Don't worry, lad." But while he walks away, he tells one of his men, "Have him brought in." Later in the issue, we see the man brought to the Penguin's office. The man says, "Mr. Cobblepot, sir, I'm glad you brought me here so I could apologize again in person. Of course, I'd never think to be rude to someone of your stature." Penguin just gives him a dirty look, and then the man says, "You're not going to hurt me, are you?" Penguin replies, "You? No. Let me tell you what's happening right now in your world. Your boss discovered some inconsistencies in your quarterly sales figures. A bit of moderately challenging forensic accounting shows that you've embezzled from him a tidy little sum. It seems you left a pot of soup burning on the stove before you went out tonight. Those old apartments, well, they go up like kindling. Poor Mrs. Nazarian on the first floor, I know you were close to her, but those fan-dangled window catches, so hard for elderly hands. Your mother and father had an unforeseen detour on their little weekend getaway, off a cliff. It seems their brake lines were eroded by rust. most tragic. Of course, they did charge you with taking their car for a tune-up last week, so their last thoughts were probably, well, no need to belabor. And Jenny, sweet Jenny, a delusional psychopath is planning to stick her with an infected needle. Infected with what, you ask? Oh, let's just say the drugs haven't yet caught up with this one. Bad luck, poor dear. She should be feeling the prick of the needle about now. So at this point, the man is on the floor crying and horrified at what the Penguin just did to his life, as the Penguin walks out leaving him there saying, I'd love to catch up more, but I'm needed downstairs. Have a nice weekend. This and what he did to the chef's life we talked about earlier demonstrated more so than most that the Penguin isn't really about large-scale evil. He's all about the personal evil. If you offend him in the slightest, he will systematically tear apart your whole entire life, killing everyone that's important to you and ruining your life in every single way possible. Like what he did to this man, setting him up for embezzlement, killing his parents, his neighbor, infecting his girlfriend with what we could only assume is something like AIDS, all because he unintentionally called the Penguin fat thinking he was someone else. If you offend the Penguin in the slightest, he will tear your world apart. That is some gangster evil stuff. How easily he's set off and vengeful he is crazy. He won't kill you. No. That would be too easy, too quick. He needs you to feel his wrath. What he does is arguably worse. He'll ruin your life so much you'd wish you were dead. And in some cases, he'll ruin your life so bad you'll end up wanting to do the job yourself. I keep saying it about how vengeful, petty, and sensitive he is, being set off so easily is mainly because he's insecure and craves to be respected. A true complete psychopath of a gangster. Now, this last moment is from a TV show, Gotham to be exact, but it's so evil and gangster, it had to be mentioned. Basically what happens in Gotham is Penguin finds his long-lost dad, Elijah Van Dahl, while they're both mourning at Gertrude Cobblepot's grave, and they realize they are father and son. They then start to build their relationship, but Elijah's wife, Grace Van Dahl, kills Elijah as Oswald and Elijah start to get close. After she killed Elijah, Grace and her kids, Charles and Sasha, start treating Oswald horrible and force him to be their servant. Yes, this is a twist on Cinderella. But don't worry, Oswald gets the last laugh. You see, being their servant, he's forced to make his evil stepmother dinner, and one night he asks, how's the meat? She says it's overcooked and asks where are the kids. Ring the bell again. Oswald says, I doubt they're coming. He then reveals he knows she poisoned and killed his father. He then pulls a knife on her as she yells for Charles and Sasha's help. Oswald says they won't come, with Grace asking, where are they? He tells her you thought they tasted the same, but Sasha is definitely more tender, revealing he killed them and cooked them as a meal for their own mother, with her unaware she was eating her own children. As she screams in horror, he kills her with a knife. Yeah, I'm gonna say killing someone's kids, then cooking them and feeding them as a roast, only to reveal they just ate their own children as revenge for killing your father, is crazy. It's incredibly deranged, psychopathic, and gangster. But there you have it, friends, several of the Penguin's most gangster moments. He may not be the strongest or biggest bad on a large scale, but man, if you piss him off, your life is over. I can't wait to see what crazy Penguin moments we'll get from the Max TV show, especially since Colin Farrell plays him so well. But with that said, what is your favorite Penguin gangster moment? Let us know in the comments. Otherwise, we'll see you next time when we talk about all things comics.